On November the 4th, 1979, hundreds of armed Iranian militants stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, seizing 66 American hostages. 173 days later, President Jimmy Carter ordered a daring mission, Operation Eagle Claw. Delta Force commandos boarded helicopters and flew deep into Iran to attempt a rescue. This video recounts the story of the Iranian hostage crisis and the ill-fated rescue mission. In 1979, the fragile Pahlavi monarchy collapsed. Ayatollah Khomeini, returning from exile, established an Islamic government that quickly consolidated power. On November 4th of that year, armed Iranian students overran the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, taking 66 Americans captive. Within weeks, 13 women and African-American hostages were released, leaving 53 still in captivity. The remaining hostages endured both physical and psychological abuse. Many were kept handcuffed and blindfolded around the clock, unable to remove restraints even when sleeping or using the bathroom. Guards staged repeated mock executions designed to shatter their will. Such treatment enraged the American public. Demands grew for swift action that would free the hostages and reaffirm American resolve. Although Carter initially sought a diplomatic solution, he also ordered the Pentagon to prepare a military rescue plan. Delta Force, the Army's most elite and secretive special operations unit, was placed under Colonel Charles Beckwith. Exploiting the instability of Iran's new government and its weak control over the military, they devised a bold but extraordinarily complex plan. The operation was divided into 4 phases. Phase 1. 8 RH-53D Sea Stallion helicopters would launch from the USS Nimitz in the Persian Gulf and fly to a remote desert staging area codenamed Desert 1. At the same time, 6 C-130 Hercules transport aircraft carrying Delta Force troops and fuel would fly from Oman to Desert 1.
Phase 2. After refueling, the helicopters would carry Delta Force to another covert site closer to Tehran and remain there overnight. Phase 3. The following night, CIA operatives inside Iran would drive trucks to move Delta Force into Tehran. The unit would split into 2 teams, one to storm the U.S. Embassy and free the 50 hostages there, and a smaller team to assault the Foreign Ministry to rescue the remaining 3. Phase 4. Once the hostages were secured, all personnel would move to a predetermined rendezvous point, board helicopters, and fly to an abandoned airfield in western Iran known as Desert 2. From there, everyone would be flown out aboard C-141s to Egypt. The plan required precise coordination among multiple military branches, supported by CIA intelligence and operatives on the ground. For months, participating units trained in strict secrecy. With political pressure mounting, Carter finally gave the order. On April 24, 1980, Operation Eagle Claw began. 8 Sea Stallion helicopters lifted off from the USS Nimitz. En route, they flew into a fierce sandstorm. 2 aircraft suffered mechanical failures. One limped back to the carrier, while another was forced down in the desert, its crew rescued by accompanying helicopters. The remaining 6 reached Desert 1, where 6 C-130 transports had already landed with Delta Force and fuel. A perimeter was quickly established around the site. Though intelligence suggested the area was remote, a crude desert road ran nearby. Before long, Delta sentries spotted a civilian bus approaching. A security team on motorcycles stopped the bus, ordering dozens of Iranian passengers off and away from the road. Moments later, a fuel truck barreled toward the perimeter. Delta soldiers opened fire with M16 rifles and an RPG. The tanker exploded in a massive fireball. Its driver escaped into a trailing vehicle, which sped off into the night. Then disaster struck again. Another helicopter broke down. Only 5 remained operational, but at least 6 were required to continue. The on-scene commander radioed the White House. Operation Eagle Claw could not proceed. Carter reluctantly ordered the mission aborted. As the withdrawal began, tragedy hit. A helicopter pilot, unaware that a C-130 was taxiing nearby, lifted off and collided with the transport. Fuel ignited, engulfing both aircraft in flames. Delta soldiers scrambled out of the C-130, but 3 helicopter crewmen and 5 Air Force personnel perished in the inferno. With Iranian forces possibly en route, the Americans abandoned 4 intact helicopters in the desert. There was no time to recover the bodies or destroy the equipment. The remaining C-130s, carrying Delta Force and surviving crew, lifted off and escaped Iranian airspace. Operation Eagle Claw ended in disaster. 7 helicopters lost, 1 C-130 destroyed, and 8 American servicemen killed. That night, Carter addressed the nation, accepting full responsibility. The failure of Eagle Claw became a key factor in his loss of the 1980 presidential election. Some blamed sheer misfortune, but even if the force had reached Tehran, they would likely have faced overwhelming Iranian troops and suffered catastrophic losses. Yet valuable lessons emerged. Eagle Claw's failure led directly to the creation of U.S. Special Operations Command structures that endure to this day. On January 20, 1981, minutes after Ronald Reagan was sworn in as president, Iran released all 52 remaining hostages. This outcome stemmed from months of secret negotiations and also reflected Tehran's desire to reset relations with the new administration. To this day, however, diplomatic relations between the United States and Iran remain severed, a lasting legacy of the hostage crisis.